He's a tough street-fighting lawyer with the highest ratings for honesty and integrity. He's here to answer your legal questions and get you the help you need. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Joe Ingram has more than 20 years' experience fighting for his clients here in the state of Alabama. Joe's focus is criminal defense and family law. You don't have to face your legal issue alone. You've got Joe Ingram on your side. In case of sensitive legal matters, you can always reach out directly to Joe at joeingramlaw.com and arrange for a private consultation. And now, Alabama's defender of the defenseless, protector of the people, and all-around good guy, Joe Ingram.
All right. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 FM here in Birmingham. Today is December the 20th. The year is almost over. A reminder that our shows for the remainder of December will be a 1-hour format. We're going to go back to a 2-hour format beginning in January of 2026. Dun-da-da! We can officially announce today that in January 2026, we will be on in Huntsville, 102.5 WBNP Talk Radio from noon to 2. And we will be on in the Tuscaloosa market as well, 105.9 WRTR on Saturday, 6 to 8 as well. So we welcome those in Huntsville and in Tuscaloosa that will be a part of our podcast in the coming year. Please like, share, download, become a part of our show. We teased it up last week. We're going to get right into it because he's got a very tight schedule. Today, we're fortunate to have former U.S. Attorney, Alabama Senator Doug Jones with us in the studio. He has just kicked off his campaign to be the next governor of the state of Alabama in the 2026 election cycle. Senator Jones, how are you? Welcome to the show, sir.
Joe, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me, and congratulations on all this, man. It's been a long time since we did a few little cases together back in the day, and you've really done great. I'm really proud of you. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Senator. I reached out to the senator weeks ago before we started the show back and asked him to do the podcast. None of us knew how the stars were going to align, and he announced his campaign last week. Senator, great. Senator, as you march towards the Capitol in Montgomery of 26, talk to the audience about some of the big things you hope to achieve down there.
You know, I really appreciate you asking because I think Alabama is on the cusp of some really great stuff and that we just need a champion to push things over the line. You know, there's a lot of just general policy things that we'll be talking about in the coming months, and we'll be honing in on very specific things. But, you know, there's a couple of obvious ones like Alabama sticks out like a sore thumb without having a lottery. People have been begging for a state lottery for years now. Every state around us has a lottery. Right now, as we sit, there are people streaming east to go to Georgia, south to go to Florida, north to go to Nashville, west to go to Mississippi, just to buy lottery tickets. That's money. That's Alabama money leaving here, and we don't get to participate in any of that. So one of the things we're going to push for really strong, and actually we're going to start laying down that this spring during the campaign, during the legislative session. So hopefully people of Alabama next year, which is going to be a big year for Alabama voters, I think, because every statewide office is going to be open. And we can get more people to the polls if we put a lottery vote up for that next November, how people vote on that, how people vote on governor, lieutenant governor down the road. So that's one big thing, and we're really going to push that. I mean, that lottery's at $1.5 billion right now. I told my wife, I said, if we get lucky, then we might reconsider all this. I don't know, but we're going to do that. But, you know, look, Joe, Alabama has low unemployment right now. But what people don't fully realize is that our economy lags behind because we have the highest percentage of folks that are not in the workforce. In other words, the lowest percentage of people in the workforce of just about anybody in the country except for, I think, West Virginia, maybe Mississippi. So that is people that are able to work, not in the workforce for whatever reason. And we got to develop that. We got to work on that. We got to train folks the right way. AI is coming, and it's going to be something we're going to have to deal with. But people also have child care issues. They have elder care issues where they're taking care of parents, and those are high cost. So we got to get folks in the workforce to really, which will boost not only individual communities, it'll boost the state. And we've done some things, but we've got to do a little bit better job. The big issue I think Alabama's going to face in the coming year right now is health care and affordable health care. Alabama's never expanded Medicaid. We've lost the billions of dollars that could have come in this way. Over 100,000 Alabamans probably are going to lose their health care because the subsidies are going to lapse. The folks in control in Washington, D.C. are going to let those ACA subsidies go. And that is going to cost Alabamans over 100,000 their health care. We've already got well over 200,000 that don't have health care because we didn't expand Medicaid. That's causing our rural hospitals to close. It's causing doctors to leave. It's causing nurses to leave. If we can take better care of us, health care-wise, and our health, it will help the communities. It will help the economy. It'll keep those hospitals open and all the things that flow around a community hospital. So that's just three, man, but we're going to be rocking and rolling with a bunch more as we go forward.
That's great. Senator, the joke has always been in the state of Alabama that we were always a little better than Mississippi, or at least from my generation. Mississippi has a lottery, and we don't.
Yeah.
Not trying to put you on the spot, and I don't know the answer either. What kind of dollars do you think we're losing that are leaving the state every day, every year for the lottery?
Well, there was a study that PARCA, the Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama, did a few years ago about not necessarily how many dollars that are leaving, but what we're losing out on the dollars that would benefit Alabama because of the way that the money is divided. And their estimates range anywhere from like $300 million to $400 million, I think. That's a lot of money, and we're going to be in a shortfall. Our budgets are going to be strained. The state budgets are. I don't think folks fully appreciate the fact that when our delegation in Congress, except for two, voted for that, what I call the anything but beautiful bill, it is going to cause some shortfalls in Alabama's budgets. We're already seeing the concern in the general fund. We're seeing concern in the education trust fund. And the whole money back in the coffers, lottery, even online gaming, Joe. I mean, estimates show that there's 1 million people in Alabama that bet online, illegally bet at this point, online. But that's something that can raise revenue that people are doing anyway. Think about that. If that study's right, 1 million people, that's 20% of the population in Alabama. That's sports betting online, and other states are doing this. They're capitalizing on it. They're capturing the revenue. Alabama just needs to kind of move into the 21st century and on some issues like that instead of just getting left behind.
We're talking with Senator Jones, who's announced he's running for governor of the state of Alabama in 2026. Governor, obviously,
I like the sound of that. By the way, just saying, you pivoted really well from senator to governor, Joe. I really like that.
Senator, you know the math down there in Montgomery. You know it's overwhelmingly a Republican state House and Senate. How are you going to get it to a vote with the people? I mean, we've already tried that with Siegelman over 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's a really good question because, but that was then, this is now. I think a lot of things have changed since that time. And I think there are a lot of people that are in favor of this. I think that at the time, people were concerned about how it would be administered. Look, the fact is people don't trust Montgomery, Alabama. They send people down there, but they don't trust them. They think it's a corrupt system. And to some extent, it is if you consider corruption being down and you supposedly represent folks, but you take your marching orders from the lobbyists with the most money, they're going to help your election. That's been what's happening. And so we've had too many fingers in the pie. We've had too many people trying to get this comprehensive bill this and a comprehensive bill that. Where's the money going to go? How's it going to go? And people just need a standalone lottery bill. They need to vote on it back in November. And I'm hoping that will happen in this coming legislative session. But if it doesn't, as soon as I get elected governor and get sworn in January of 27, we're going to start working with the legislature to find that common ground where we can get what the people want. One of the things you're going to see, Joe, in my campaign, you're going to continually see me trying to do those things to change the mindset of folks here to empower people in Alabama, to be able to make the changes they want. The lottery is one of them. A ballot initiative, giving citizens the right to put things on the ballot, like so many other states have. We would have already had a lottery if citizens had that ballot initiative. I want to see mayors and county commissioners not have to go beg into Montgomery every time they need to change some law or do something for the people that elected them. They have to go beg Montgomery because everything is focused down in that legislature. They have hold the power. They block things that they just don't like, and they only allow the things that they individually do like and their lobbyists like. We want to empower people. We want to get folks involved in this campaign so that come next November, they're sending a hell of a message down to Montgomery about who's really in control of the state.
We're speaking with former Senator of Alabama, Doug Jones, running for governor in 26. Governor, you announced last Friday night here at the Theodore Hotel here in Birmingham your campaign. What has the reception been like for the first week? Are you worn out yet?
Yes, yes and no. But yes, in the sense you're worn out, but there is so much adrenaline that keeps flowing because the reception has been absolutely amazing. For anybody that was there, they would tell you we haven't seen anything like this in a long time. Really, candidly, since my election night of 2017. We did last week on December 12th to coincide with the election for a reason, and that's to rekindle that energy. There has been an excitement that I have just not seen. It had helped us encourage. I got so much encouragement to do this. And for anybody that hasn't seen it, if you would like to, please go to the website, DougJones.com. It's still there. You can see it. You can hear Jason Isbell singing one of my favorite songs, Alabama Pines, my wife introducing me, and then just see the reaction of the crowd. And it was folks from all walks of life. They came from all parts of the state. It was truly remarkable. We hadn't stopped since.
That's great, Doug. So we're speaking with Doug Jones. This is WERC on the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. You're an Alabama lawyer. Doug has been so kind to give us some time today. Doug, a couple questions I want to ask you about, even though you're running for governor. Just because I get a chance to do this, I hadn't seen you in a while. We hadn't got to talk. I want to talk about the big picture of this just for a second, not about politics. You got to be a part of two big events in history. I mean, you're walking Alabama history. I know your history so well. You got to be a part of an impeachment trial of a president. I don't want to talk about the votes and the right and the left and all that crap. I want to talk about sitting as a United States senator in an impeachment. The magnitude of that, did that ever weigh on you at that time?
Oh.
Or were you in the middle of it and not realize the magnitude of something?
No. I fully understood and appreciated the magnitude of this. I'm an old history buff as well, and but both history and politics. And no, I understood the magnitude of what I was being asked to do. I felt like all along that in that impeachment that there would not be enough votes to convict the president in that. I mean, when you remember, we're sitting as a senator. As a senator, you're sitting as a juror, which is a little bit different for me and not being an advocate. But I'll tell you, Joe, I approached that with the gravity and the weight that I think it should be given. I'm not sure all of my colleagues did. Republican colleagues were never going to vote for impeachment, for a conviction. Democratic colleagues were never going to vote for anything but a conviction. And we did it differently. And I'll tell you, I had consistently pushed back on the notion of an impeachment for things. And then until that call with Zelensky happened, and I saw moderates in the House calling for an investigation. And at that point, I literally can remember this day. I was coming back from Texas, where I'd been to a couple of fundraising events. And I saw that in the Washington Post as I get on the plane. And I literally called when I saw these moderates who had to push back on impeachment. When when I saw that, I called my staff from the plane, before we took off, and said, I want to start building a file, just like I did as a lawyer. And I want to start building this file because if there is any truth to what's in these allegations, this is going to come over to us, I believe. I truly believe it will. And we started at that point to build a file, to take in everything we could. I had 2 people in my staff that were appointed to do it, to follow it. We followed the hearings. I built a file just like I would build as a lawyer. And one of the interesting things that we did, and this is probably a longer answer than you anticipated.
That's great. I love it.
But, we built it through and we watched the hearings. And then there was the vote. And as expected, as I had predicted, the House voted to impeach President Trump. And before we left, they held it over there for a bit and didn't bring it over to the Senate so they could work out some logistics. But when we broke for a week or 2 in December, I gathered up my staff, my top 6 folks in my staff, and I had these note cards printed. And I had, on those note cards, I had 3 printed guilty, and I had 3 printed not guilty. I said, and I turned them down, and I let each one of them pick a card, not knowing what they're going to do. Pick a card, and they all looked at their cards. And I said, now, when I come back, I want to sit down with each of you as a group, and I want you to give me the argument that favors whatever's on your card. You look at it, you study it, you give me the arguments for conviction, you give me the arguments for non-conviction, because I wanted different perspectives. And as it turned out, most of the people that drew cards that had an inclination the other way. So it forced them to look at all sides of the angle, which helped me look at every side. And then when we got to the trial itself, Joe, you would appreciate this as an old trial lawyer. I take a lot of notes in trials, and I do it in blue ink, but then I got a red pen there, and I make stars and I underline, and mine looks like a crazy, jumbled up mess. I literally, during the trial itself, while everybody else was looking at their phone, people had made up their minds, I'm taking notes. I took over 400 pages of personal notes, 6 legal pads full that I've still got. So we took it really very, very serious. This was not an easy decision. At the end of the day, it was easier for me to show, to convict on the count involving just general derelict of duty, breaching his duties as president by making that kind of quid pro quo offer. It was a little harder to come to whether or not his obstruction of trying to defy subpoenas mounted to an impeachable defense. That was a little harder to come by, but at the end of the day, I felt pretty strong on both counts. But I talked to a lot of colleagues. I talked to a lot of people. My staff and I did a lot of work. I took that incredibly serious, and I am still to this day convinced that I made the right decision.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to get into the votes or anything like that. I just want to talk about the history and the magnitude which you got to be a part of. The other thing I want to really...
But that kind of demonstrated the history and the magnitude that I felt at the time. I would not have put in that kind of time. I had so much other stuff going on, including getting ready for re-election campaign. But that demonstrates how me, and not just me, but everybody in my office took the seriousness of what we were doing.
Absolutely. And the real reason I brought that up, Senator, is I want the people to understand, because I know you just a little bit. I don't know you that well, but I do know you because I got to ride around the state of Alabama with you for about 2 years. You're a very, very critical thinker. You're not going to be persuaded by politics. You're an old school trial lawyer. You were a U.S. attorney. You're going to listen to the facts. You're going to listen to the arguments, and then you're going to make a decision that you think fits the law. Yeah. And that's what I was trying to get across in that question you, sir.
There's no question about that, Joe, and thanks for saying that and recognizing that. I remember when I first announced to run for the Senate in 2017, and I told the folks closest to me, and Louise and I, my wife, and I talked about this. I told the consultants, I told the pollsters I told everybody, I said, look, I want to run this the way I feel and the way I believe is the right thing to do. Don't ever tell me that I should do X, Y, Z in such a way because the polls are telling me X. We're gonna do what we believe is the right. I told my Senate staff the same way, and we have that same sense going into the gubernatorial campaign, and I'll be that kind of governor. I am not going to let the political expediency take care of this. That is just not the way to lead. And I like to think that we established a leadership quality in the Senate that I'm very, very proud of. I would not have been able to accomplish what I did with 25, 26 bipartisan bills that actually got enacted into law and signed by Donald Trump. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't believe in what I was doing and could find common ground with folks on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah. The other big thing I want to talk about is you got elected to be the shepherd for United States Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jackson before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Right. Most people that are not in politics or in law, they don't understand the magnitude of that or how much time-consuming that is. Talk about that just for a second. How much time did that take out of your schedule doing that? Because she's got to make the rounds with all the senators.
Yeah. No, it was in essence a full-time job because I took a leave of absence from the law firm I was working on,
right?
A think tank that I was working with, and to be on the White House staff. And so it was full-time except for a little bit. One day a week I was teaching a law school class at Boston College during that time. But it was full-time. It was nonstop. I mean, we were working under a compressed time frame. We had to, first of all, help the president make the decision on who to select, which meant interviewing several people, talking to folks, studying the different candidates that had bubbled up on the short list. And then the short list got narrowed to about 3. I had participated in interviews with those folks. And then when Justice Jackson, then Judge Jackson, was selected, we immediately set to work on briefing her on issues, briefing her on the senators she would meet with, on things about her own life. Think about this. You're about to get a Supreme Court nomination, be put in front of God and everybody about a Supreme Court. You got to go find speeches you might have given when you were in the debate club in high school. So it was incredibly time-consuming. We met with 98 of the senators. Fortunately, got her confirmed.
That's great, Senator. He's been it all. We are speaking with former Senator Doug Jones, who's been so kind to give us his time today. He's on a campaign, and God knows what he's going to look like in a year from now when I see him. I'll get to joke with him a little bit. Doug, everybody knows about the 6th Street bombing prosecution. Everybody knows about you were involved with the Eric Robert Rudolph. I want to talk about something just for a second because I know you're about to leave. Do you remember where you were the day that it was announced that Eric Robert Rudolph was going to plead guilty the next day in federal court in front of federal judge Lynn Woodsmith? Do you remember where you were?
I don't remember where I was.
Doug.
At that point. I do remember where I was when he got caught, but I don't remember that. I mean, everything after he got caught is a little bit of a blur. You obviously remember it. Where were we?
We were in Judge Smith's courtroom up in Huntsville when he took a break. He came back out and he said it's about to be announced to the world he's going to plead guilty tomorrow.
Okay.
You say you forgot?
I remember that now. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you so much got overshadowed on the day he got arrested.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That was just a day that is ingrained in my memory. After that, it's a blur except for this, except going into Judge Smith's courtroom and watching him plead guilty, watching him being sentenced, and seeing a man that I do not believe has a soul. Just no soul. So what case were we on? Big criminal case, I guess, probably.
It was a criminal case that you let me, you graciously kept me because you're such a kind man. We're going to go to break here in just a second. Doug, are you going to stick around? You got to go.
No, I can stick around for a few more minutes.
All
Happy
right,
to.
Folks, we have former Senator Doug Jones of the state of Alabama. He is living history. People that don't know his history don't know everything he's done in the state of Alabama. You need to go look him up, because it's very likely he is about to be the governor of state of Alabama in 2026. Stick around. We'll be back. Thanks. Bye.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right. Today is Saturday, December the 20th, 2025. We're in the studio, WERC 105.5 FM. With former Senator Doug Jones, who has graciously extended his time for a few more minutes. Senator, for the audience out there, you're running against Tommy Tuberville, sitting senator of the state of Alabama. Tell the folks out there what you bring to the table, even though you have a D behind your name.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking about that, Joe. And let me say this too: I'm running initially in the primary, and I think there'll be a couple of other people. I'm not taking that for granted at all. I feel like we are going to win that, but I'm not going to take it for granted. We're going to be working hard this spring toward a May primary date. But assuming I can get through that, and I'm facing Tuberville, I think what I want people to take away and learn in this campaign, I want them to start paying attention now. I'd like for them to start paying attention to what I did in the Senate, what I'm saying, versus what he has done or not done in the Senate. I got so many bipartisan bills passed. Even Ted Cruz mentioned something the other day when they got the reauthorization of the Cold Case Act. Ted Cruz and I worked on that together. And in a press release he did the other day when he gave that history, he mentioned me working with him to do that. That is not something that you see coming from the other side. I think that the contrast between leadership styles, but also leadership in general, working with people on both sides of the aisle to get things done, knowing that you can't always get what you want, as Mick Jagger said, but if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need. That's the way we're going to approach this, and that's the way I want to work with folks, no matter who ends up being in the legislature. We can work with anybody as long as folks are being fair and they're working and not pandering to people. They're looking for the best interests of the state of Alabama. I think I've got a history, Joe, and you worked with me on some legal stuff before. You know my history as U.S. Attorney, but I think my history in the United States Senate, I was only there 3 years, and I'll put my record up against that anybody's for really just a 3-year tenure in the Senate, getting that much legislation done for veterans, for health care, for workers, for farmers. You know, our farmers are hurting right now, and it's deja vu all over again for me, because in the first Trump administration, his tariffs hurt farmers. And I was out there promoting the beef industry. I was out there promoting the soybean farmers and the corn farmers that were getting hurt by these tariffs. I want folks to really put aside what they believe, and there is some well-founded beliefs, okay? I want folks to put aside the D and the R and look at the Doug and the Tommy and make a comparison and look and see who is best positioned to lead this state, who is best positioned not to embarrass this state, who's in the best position to bring not only businesses but good paying jobs to this state as well and get folks the things they deserve. I feel really good about our chances if people will do that.
Yeah. And Doug, speaking about that for just a second, when you're a U.S. attorney, okay, you may get appointed by a Republican president or a Democratic president, but when you are a U.S. attorney, and you and I both know, we've had this conversation a lot, that is the most powerful position in the federal government, is the ability to charge somebody in federal court. All federal prosecutors that I know take that extremely seriously. It's not a partisan indictment. It's an indictment based on the facts and the law and the evidence. And I think that speaks a lot when you're running for governor of the state of Alabama and you're dealing with serious issues for all Alabamians.
You're absolutely right. It is the rule of law. Everything has to be based on facts and evidence and not a pure partisanship issue, especially when you're in the Department of Justice. The retribution we're seeing now is not really good. It is not consistent with a department that I came to love. I came as a member of that department, and then even have more respect sometimes as somebody on the other side of that. But that's what you have to bring to the table. You know what, Joe, what I try to do and what I'll do as governor is represent everyone. And that means representing people that didn't vote for me as well as those that did. Right now, too many people in a gerrymandered state, and their votes are taken for granted. They're going to vote that, they think they'll vote that straight ticket, so it's a rigged system, and they're going to take the people for granted. That has happened too long in Alabama. We didn't do that in the Senate. I'm not going to do that as governor. Anybody that is in this state, whether they voted for me or not, will have an open door to my office to visit with people, to express their concerns. And that's something you're going to see me doing on the campaign, Joe. You're going to see me out and about a lot around this state, talking to people, and more importantly, listening to people and their cares and the concerns.
What is your schedule like once we get past the holiday starting January 26th? Just tell people what you're looking for.
You know, it's going to be brutal. We're building it now. There's a couple of big things that we've got for MLK Day down in Mobile, Realtor Association keynote up in Huntsville. We're doing something with the NAACP, I think, down in Eufaula. And then we're going to start doing a series of just local meetups. Not big old town halls like I did in Lauderdale County about a week ago, but we're going to start scheduling just meetups. And if it's 3 people, great. If it's 30 people, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I want folks to sit down with me just like you and I are sitting down, and I want to hear from them about what's happening in their communities and how a governor can help, even if it's to be an advocate and have that bully pulpit for them. So as we ramp up this campaign, we're going to be doing a lot of Zooms. We'll be doing a lot of radio. But we're going to be out there. We're going to go in every county, and we're going to have a set of volunteers in every county of the state.
That's great. Senator, let me ask you one more question. It came to me. I'm going to ask you anyway. I may get in trouble. How do you feel about the blue card rule for senators? The blue slip. The blue slip. Yeah.
I think it's been abused. You know, I tried to... when I was in the Senate, I tried not to. I did it one time. I exercised a blue slip, and it was literally like a month before the election when I did it. But for those that don't know, the blue slip is a Judiciary Committee informal. It's not an official rule. It's just a tradition that a home state senator can block the nomination of any judicial or U.S. attorney nomination from the president. And it has been abused. There are Republicans who block Democrats, Democrats who have blocked Republicans. When I got to the U.S. Senate, previous blue slips had not been given, and there were like 5 vacancies because senators did not want President Biden to have any appointments for the judiciary. I let those go through. But it has been abused in the last term because our senators refused to allow not only judgeships, they refused to allow U.S. attorneys and U.S. marshals. I think Alabama may be the only state in the country that never saw a presidentially nominated and confirmed judge and U.S. attorney or marshal in the last administration. And I think that is just completely opposite of what the Constitution allows and requires. So I am for modifying or getting rid of the dang blue slip. I'm just telling you, I just think it is a block. Some of my Democratic colleagues like it because they're going to be blocking Trump nominees. I didn't do that. I looked at every nominee, and I voted against some of those nominees, but I didn't try to block them. There was only one I blocked, and that was just literally a month before the election, and I thought it was inappropriate to vote on that at such a late date. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it at all. And I wish, and I've actually talked to the then chairman, he's the ranking member now, Senator Durbin, about trying to do something about it so that we could at least have the constitutional right to have some appointments in Alabama.
What is your opinion of the Alabama Medical Marijuana Board that has had 5 years of litigation, and then finally this last week, it looks like we're about to start dispensing medical marijuana cards?
Well, it's about damn time is what I'm saying. I mean, look, I think what's going on with that is typical that you get something whose time has come, which was in that instance medical marijuana. Time has come, and yet they screw it up. It took 5 years of litigation to do this, and I think it's just crazy. They could have done this better. They could have done it more expeditiously. Too many special interests got involved. Too many folks trying to mess it up. It was, and that's the kind of thing that holds Alabama back. Okay, we're going to finally get that now, just as President Trump decides to reclassify marijuana to a Schedule III, I think, which would have allowed that to happen in a much more systematic role, which I support. Tommy Tuberville doesn't, by the way. He sent a letter to President Trump opposing that rescheduling.
Yeah, that was this week, wasn't it?
That was this week.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. People in Alabama, look, the time has come. We got to move Alabama forward, not keep us stuck in the dark ages. So I'm glad they finally seem to have gotten their act together to allow some of these dispensaries and things where people can actually get a relief. You know, Joe, my mom passed away 2 years ago Christmas. And she was in pain a lot in the last few years of her life. And it could have benefited her. That could have benefited her if 5 years ago this had been available to her. But we couldn't do that. I didn't break the law to get her that kind of relief. Sometimes I wish I had and just taken the chance. But there are so many folks that can benefit from that. It's just a shame that it's been 5 years delayed. It could have been done at least. It should not have taken that long.
Yeah. Senator Doug, it's hard to pick what to call him. I don't want to get in trouble out there to the audience. Are you familiar with the legislation that passed in May of 25 about these hemp stores in the state of Alabama? OG Puff, a lot of these stores. A lot of these are my clients. The way they wrote this legislation, the people that wrote the law don't know how to enforce the law. They put it all under the umbrella of the ABC board. ABC board doesn't even know how to grant the licenses yet. And we're killing ourselves, Doug. Yeah. Do you know how many people the industry laid off that have all these stores? It's legal under the 2017 Farm Bill about cannabis.
Yes.
And federal law, last time I checked, Trump state law any day of the week.
Yeah, no, look, it's just typical for me of the lack of some overriding leadership in Montgomery. Somebody latches on to an issue and they think that they're going to do something with it because it's a hot issue, and they don't think through the consequences. They don't think through the regulations, how it might be implemented. Joe, I have heard so many stories about this and some other things where legislators will finally meet with a constituent group, and that constituents group says, hey, man, you got to do something about this or that. And because it's killing this business, it's killing that business, and the legislature said, well, okay, no problem. We will just write legislation to correct that. And they said, well, you do realize it was your legislation that's created the problem. And that's because so much power is strictly down in Montgomery, Alabama, with the folks and the lobbyists and those that are paying the big bucks and giving out the campaign donations. Folks are not listening to those store owners who were doing everything perfectly legal, built a business perfectly legal, and they're just going to yank it away. And that's it. There is just no rhyme or reason for that, but it's just because of the concentration of power in Montgomery and not in the people, and we're going to make some changes to that.
I hope so. Well, Doug, thank you so much for your time today. Doug, I got one last question. Yep. I'm going to let you go. You've been so kind. Folks, this is Senator Doug Jones, who just announced last week he's running for the governor of the state of Alabama in 26. Doug, I know just a little bit about you because I rode around the state of Alabama with you for about a year and a half. I know you love baseball. Where's the best place you've ever seen a baseball game?
Oh, wow. You know, this is going to surprise you. The best place to me for watching a baseball game is Rickwood Field. Yep, is Rickwood Field. I'm sorry. I've seen all these fancy big old houses. I've been to Baltimore. I hadn't been to the new Yankee Stadium yet, but I've been to the Astros. I've been to all these things, and they're great. But they're all throwbacks. They're all throwbacks to a Rickwood Field or Wrigley. I like Wrigley in Chicago, but I'm telling you, they ain't nothing like going last year and a half ago now and watching the San Francisco Giants play the St. Louis Cardinals at Rickwood Field. And what a day. It was on such a nostalgic day when one of my hometown heroes from Fairfield, Willie Mays, passed away. And so I'm just telling you, folks, if you've never been to Rickwood Field, it's the oldest ballpark in America, come to see Rickwood. And by the way, every year, a group of old timers and I get out there and we play too. And that's a kick. That's a kick.
That's great. Senator, I hope I get to see you again on your campaign trail. I know you're busy. Thank you for your time today.
Hey, thank you, Joe, for having me. And let's do this again. I love going back and forth.
Okay. Senator, safe travels over the next year, okay?
Thanks. You too, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. Folks, that was very informative. I think he's going to do a lot for us in the next 4 years if he were to get elected. He's a very, very intellectual man that I know a lot about. And when I asked him to do this, it was before he even announced for election. And we're so grateful for his time. Okay, so Senator Jones left, and we wish him safe travels over the next year. Okay, this is Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, 105.5 WERC on the south side of Birmingham. Folks, we announced earlier in the show, we have big news coming for the next year. We are going to be on in Huntsville, WBHP Talk Radio, and on in Tuscaloosa, 105.9 WRTR, Roll Tide Roll. Those two markets are going to join us in January 26th. So just some brief news I want to talk about that's happened in the last week that I put together in case we lost Senator Jones. I couldn't kidnap him for the full hour. Big stories of the week. Two big murder stories of the week nationally. Both of them are very equally sad. Rob Reiner and his wife were murdered out in California, allegedly by their son, who, in my term, folks, falls under a category. I call it influenza. This is probably a kid that's never had to work a day in his life. He's had money. He's had access to everything. He's just walked the streets. You see him on the video out in front of a gas station buying a drink, and then allegedly he goes and stabs his parents to death. So that's very sad this time of year. The other big story this week is a murder story. Happened up at Brown University. Very Ivy League falutin elitist college. It came out last night that somebody that went to Brown University is the one that possibly committed the heinous crime scene up there, the murders and the shootings. And I think they're trying to tie him to the MIT shooting as well. Can you believe that? Here at Christmas time, how very sad, how very tragic in both of those situations that we are in at this time of year. Another story I want to talk about from divorce family law topic that's a big story this week. Donald Trump Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle, the fallout, they played this out in the press over the last year, and they tried to make this look like it wasn't that big a deal. Folks, it is a big deal. Let me tell you why. Donald Trump Jr. traded up to a socialite and a model named Bettina Anderson. And I had to go look her up and do a little research. She's a socialite of Palm Beach. She actually has a degree from Columbia University in history, so she's not completely stupid, but she's a very pretty lady. And so he was engaged to Kimberly Guilfoyle, and he broke it off. And so they're like, well, we got to get Kim out of the Palm Beach area because I've got my socialite down there now. Well, folks, Kim didn't do too bad out of this. Here's why. President Trump made her the United States ambassador to Greece. That's not a bad gig, folks. President Trump, if you want to make me an ambassador to any country except for Russia or maybe some Muslim countries, count me in. I'll go be an ambassador any day. The job I would love more than anything on earth, and I've talked to my friends about this, make me the ambassador to Rome. Make me the ambassador to Rome. You want to know why? Can you imagine the wine cellar I have for dinner every day? And I might get to have dinner with the Holy Father. Can you imagine that? Make me the ambassador to Rome. Anyway, just something to think about out there. Well, folks, we're going to wrap up the show here in a few minutes, and we are grateful for Senator Doug Jones to come in and tell us where he hopes to lead this state in the coming years if he is to win the nomination and become governor. This is Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, 105.5 WERC. If you need representation, you can call my office, 205-825-5297, 205-825-5297. You can always speak with Holly or Elizabeth, my intake specialist. We'll get you in for a consult. We're going to announce some big news in the next coming weeks, and we've already started doing it, so we're going to go ahead and break it now. We're going to have somebody on next week. His name is Justin Jones. He is an attorney with Hare Wynn. Hare Wynn does big personal injury cases. Justin has agreed to come in and share his expertise with us, and he is a very brilliant attorney. He does big-time medical malpractice cases and cases against hospitals. He's going to share his expertise with us. My office is going to start back doing personal injury cases in 26. Yes, we're going to go back into doing personal injury cases. We're not going to take every case. We're not trying to be out there on TV. We're not trying to be out there on billboards. We are doing personal injury cases for people that need serious representation. And that's what we intend to provide folks in the personal injury area of law coming in 26. So there it is. It's announced, folks. If you have a divorce case and you need representation, give us a call. Coming after Christmas, everybody's going to be looking for a divorce lawyer. Look around the table next weekend. Look at the people that are unhappy. Look at the people that are not smiling at the in-laws. Those are the ones that are about to file for divorce. Go get your tax returns for 5 years if you've been married more than 10 years. Go get your W-2s. Go get your bank statements. Go get your 401k statements. Get all your documents ready. Call my office, set up a consultation, and we will file for divorce in January 26, and you can move on to your new lovely whatever you have found out there. Okay? For those of you that are still going to Christmas parties, I always do this in December. Do not get so drunk that you're going to get a DUI. If you get a DUI, you're going to need me for representation. There are too many choices out there that you can call an Uber. Do not use somebody else's prescription drugs. Xanax, Klonopin, all the good drugs that we take to take the edge off. Don't take those. If you get caught with those, you're going to get a substance abuse charge, which could be a felony. Okay? So don't do that. So it's Christmas time, 2025. Yes, we're back on the air. Some people have called the studio and said, is he really back? Yes, we're really back for the long term. Not only will we be back, we're going to be on in Huntsville, Birmingham, and Tuscaloosa for the coming year. We want to be a part of your Saturday morning. We want to be a part of your life. Go to the little red app, click on the little red button. That's the Spy for Rent hotline. You can get to us if you need to and ask any questions that you want us to talk about on the show. Okay? So it's Christmas time. This is the time of year when you see family that you don't normally see. You get to probably see your mom or your dad. You get to see your siblings. You get to see your in-laws. You get to see your children if they're gone off to college or involved in something else, work careers. You get to see your grandchildren. Folks, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you see your family more probably than you do all year long. You need to cherish the next week that's going to happen in your life. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you're glad to see them. Put away the rivalry of the sibling rivalry. Put away the knives. Put away the problems you had growing up with your brother or your sister. Put your jealousy away that somebody in your family's done better than you. You should be proud of somebody in your family that has become successful, whatever they do in life. You should be proud for them. You should say, I am so glad this happened for you. Thank God for you. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Justin Jones, you're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, 105.5 WERC. Thanks for listening. Got to go. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Don't forget to follow Joe's Legal Lowdown podcast on iHeart. If you need a private legal consultation, reach out to Joe on his website, joeingramlaw.com. Tune in again next Saturday for the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by any other lawyer.